Alright, we have compression. Okay, the way that the compressor is being added to the output, I'm using the aux send section instead of the channel insert send, because this block comes after everything else. So we have the compressor on board. So the way this works is you turn it on and off with the switch. You have to make sure that pre is selected. If this is not selected, you won't hear anything, because now it's trying to go post fader, and there is no fader. It's trying to send audio down to something that doesn't exist. So come back here, turn on pre, make sure the switch is on. The level knob here, you can think of this as the makeup gain. This is going to be the amount of signal that's leaving the strip. So I'll just turn it down for now. Alright, so let's kind of zoom in on the compressor here. So what do we have for controls? We have release, threshold, and ratio. There is no attack knob. That's because the attack is fixed. The manual says it's generally around 400 microseconds. Apparently that is kind of the range that the movie industry uses for an attack. I guess that works fine for their soundtracks. So that speed is completely fine for a compressor. I have no problem with that whatsoever. You'd have to look up and compare it to other compressors out there to see what else, what other compressors operate around 400 microseconds for an attack. I did a quick Google search and found, I was looking for some presets that had, or plug-in presets that have a 400 microsecond attack and a release similar to what we have here. So the release goes from 0.1 seconds to 4 seconds. And I found a preset for the Fairchild compressor, and that plugin was set at 400 microsecond attack and 2 second release. So that's kind of what I have set here. I should anyway. So it's 4 seconds if it's all the way over. Dial it back to about 2. Okay. So the way that I found works really well here is to turn up the line trim until I start seeing, okay, this is kind of like, it's detented in the middle, so this is right exactly halfway at 0. You can see we're already starting to get 3 dB of compression there. I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit so I can hear what's going on. I'm using a 5-to-1 ratio. I'm trying to, kind of the idea with compressing a drum track, if it's going to be used in parallel, I want to really squash it down and then kind of tuck that up underneath the rest of the mix. So play around with that, see if we can kind of bring out the room sound. So let me drive more signal into it. We get 6 dB. Okay, there we go. See how much more I can get. Starting to get 9 dB. I'm kind of turning this up at the same time. And of course, with the threshold, I mean, if you want to just totally obliterate it, you can just, turn it all the way down and just completely crush it, but we don't want to do that, so that's why I'm not even using the threshold yet. I'm trying to do it with the line trim, just to get an idea of what it does. Turning it up some more. Okay, and right at this point, my line trim is maxed out. So we're getting, I think, almost 9 dB of compression. This standing here in the room, I mean, you're not going to be able to tell on a cell phone, probably. Maybe you can, but standing in the room, the punch is still there. I can still feel it. So I want to try to squash this thing until I can't really feel any punch anymore. So we're at 9 dB right now. This is super, super, super aggressive right now. And so usually what happens, once you go more than 9 dB, everything starts sounding kind of like the notes are getting longer. The snare drum will ring out more. The stuff that's in the background will be pulled forward, and you kind of like stretch out. It's kind of like stretching the time, basically. You can make things feel like they're longer, even though all you're doing is just sort of bringing up the volume of things that would be decaying normally. And as you do that, it can get really grimy. I mean, if you're hitting 15 dB, this is like getting insane. I'm gonna try to take it down to the maximum. Take it till it breaks up, like right there. Okay, that's too much. So then we dial it back. What I would usually do is dial it back until it feels like there's still somewhat of a natural feel to it. And right there, that feels good to me. Just totally crushing it. I mean, I know we're getting more than 9 because I see the 15 light come on once in a while. So we're probably getting like 12 dB, something like that. It's hard to tell. But this would be absolutely killer as a parallel compressor. Now, if I wasn't going in parallel, I wouldn't have to go that aggressive. I would. If this were just something I was applying to a track not in parallel, I'd probably go like anywhere from 3 to 6, maybe something like that. See, even here, you can hear that the kick is still punchy, snare's still punchy. Go back to like 6 dB, and that's pretty much. If I were just applying this to drums, not in parallel, this is probably where I would have it, something like that. And then, of course, your makeup gain. You can turn that all the way down, turn it back up, whatever. Okay, let me turn it down so I can kind of talk over this. Or I could just turn it off. Yeah, so great. Everything's working. This compressor is super cool. This sounds really, really good. It sounds like, like as good as any plugin that I have. And I have all the stuff from UA or pretty much all of it. And, I've heard bad compressors in analog, and when it's bad, straight away that it's not going to be usable. And this totally reminds me of the SSL plugins that I've used. I haven't used SSL hardware. I've never had an SSL console here, but I would say this is pretty close to it when I compare it to the plugin anyway. So one thing that's kind of interesting is the aux send output. I don't know if you can tell from here, but okay, so this cable that I'm touching is an XLR cable that's going coming from the compressor, from the channel strip, and I've kind of wired it up to this XLR. And so XLR cables have 3 wires inside, but the audio that's coming out from the aux end is unbalanced, so there's only 2 wires, not 3. So there is a way to kind of wire it together if you want to go unbalanced to balanced. The signal itself will still be unbalanced coming in, but I don't hear any noise or anything, so that's kind of the only reason that you would go balanced, is to try to limit the noise. So, if we want to add a balancing circuit, we could do that. A very basic balancing circuit is not that hard to build. I could just build a little board, and then basically your two wires, um, the green one and no, sorry, that's right, the green one and the yellow one. The yellow one's the hot signal. The green one is I think it's marked as ground on the board there, but it's connected to the shield and I believe the negative of the XLR. Anyway, these two wires could come into basically any kind of balancing circuit that we want. We could do like a standard, just generic balancing circuit, or you could go a little fancier and add a transformer. That would change the sound of it. That would make it sound more kind of Neve-ish. Transformers are pretty cool. You could even maybe like put a switch in. That way you could choose. You could say like, all right, I want to have the standard balance sound, and then you could click a button and switch over to a transformer and get the transformer sound. So if I was using one of the other outputs that are already balanced, then you don't have the option to add your own stuff in. So, maybe that's something I might want to do. Could even use the same kind of balancing circuit that they have. I have the schematics for this whole thing, so I could even, the balancing part is really pretty small. There's not that many components to it, so that's something. But and then, of course, there's the option of just wiring it up unbalanced as well, and that works too. But I probably wouldn't recommend that, because if you have long cable runs and they're running by, you know how it is. You have like a rat's nest of power cables, and if your audio cable is going near them and it's unbalanced, you might get some noise in it. So I probably would recommend adding some balancing to it. But yeah, super psyched. Everything's working. Really excited to try this compressor on lots of different source material and see what we can get. I can already tell that it completely can just squash a signal, and you can get a lot of usable gain reduction before it starts sounding, like it's breaking up. In contrast to something like this Pro VLA2 here, this to me generally only sounds good when you're just barely touching it with compression. I don't really like this one when I drive it hard. So this one over here, I have a feeling is going to be a super powerhouse. So pretty amazing strip. Keeping everything in analog. It's going to really improve the workflow. I'm going to try to do everything in my mixes just with the channel strips. This compressor, EQ, filter, and multiply that across however many strips you have, and that should be a lot of fun. All right, later.